Hi everybody, it's Diane again from Tattered Edges Design with journal flip through, as you can see here, 3 of them today. These are, I'm a little late to the party, kind of autumn, woodsy looking. This one, we'll start with this, has been in my shop for a little while, but since I was doing the other 2, which are brand new, I thought I'd go ahead and show this one too. It is 4 inches across and 8 inches this way, which is a little smaller than a traditional traveler's notebook, but it was 8-inch paper, so what could I do? So anyway, it's single thickness paper with fabric glued over the spine. It's 5-hole stitch binding. There's sewing all around with a little bit of coffee dyed fabric thrown in. There's the back. I did add this circle to write, a date or whatever, and a scrapbook butterfly I added. This one is embellished. There's a magazine snippet, little scrapbook, scrapbook pocket, scrapbook paper little mini file folder, a lace flip, some fabric. This is a coloring page, obviously, some washi, scrapbook paper. I think that's Tim Holtz, yes, Mr. Holtz. Ledger paper here, washi, more washi, scrapbook, fabric, vintage, and a little seam binding there. With the same tickets, I have a big roll of these, so I put these in almost every journal. I was thinking I should have named my shop Gray Tickets because I keep doing that. Anyway, this is a kind of a construction paper, drawing paper consistency. Scrapbook paper, rubber stamp, coffee dyed paper, scrapbook image. I added a little grass by hand there. Fabric, a little fabric tab, large washi tape segment there. A little half page, a vintage book page. This is the cover actually of an old, I don't remember the date, but probably 60s. Child's, like those Think and Do books, that type of thing. And this was the cover I used because of the image there, so it's kind of thick. Vintage book page, scrapbook leaves, little fabric, coffee dyed stamp. This is that perforated paper you may have seen in other videos for cross stitch as a tab. This is a calendar page image, appropriate I thought. And the back of that has just a few little added papers to write. Scrapbook images. Now we're going back the other side of the leaf book page, and here's the other side of that cover I was talking about. Kind of cute. And a set of playing cards, a pocket, and then an actual loose one there. The half sheet, coffee dyed. This is an actual pressed fern leaf and a pressed phlox petal flower there. This is a scrapbook pocket with cutout bee, opens. This is just a, cut right from the scrapbook paper, although I added the number. Little tag there is cute. Scrapbook owl. The back of that drawing type paper, fabric. A stencil with some ink. The scrapbook paper that opens. There's some leaves there, rubber stamp. Scrapbook, that's scrapbook 2, fabric. Washi, there's a old dictionary definition of a raccoon. A little booklet there. Scrapbook paper. Tim Holtz paper again. This is the coloring book. Flips open. And scrapbook. And a little journal card I made out of a scrapbook and some vintage paper. There's some stitching on it. Pocket here with a little scrapbook bird and some cheesecloth in the back again. Okay, this is another traveler's notebook style. This one is bigger. It's 4.5 by 8.5. 5-hole stitch binding too. This one is not covered, you can see it. It's single scrapbook paper with stitching intentionally messy all the way around with a few pieces of fabric here. They're all vintage. I did add this scrapbook label for a name or date, whatever you want. And inside is a scrapbook pocket with woodchuck prints, footprints, kind of cute. That's scrapbook paper. The journal card I made, that's the deer or whatever it is. Image is old 70s wrapping paper with some scrapbook images and punched leaves. Actually, that wrapping paper, I have a whole page of it coming up here. This is a scrapbook, coffee dyed, another fern and phlox. Those are real. A scrapbook pocket, that's vintage trim and scrapbook images, and the same, yeah, at this point in my career, I have one stencil. Stencil and ink, and this is a watercolored index card. A vintage book page. This was cut from a vintage book. You can kind of tell by the photography there. That's a weasel. Vintage fabric. This is the wrapping paper. Washi coloring book. Which that one's, excuse me, pretty old. That's from the 70s, I think. Yeah, I think that's from the 70s. Vintage book again. More perforated paper. Little mini flip with some yarn sewn down on coffee dyed. Another large washi tape image. This is scrapbook paper with some mushrooms. These two were scrapbook, and this one was one of those collage sheets you can buy that, you know, people put together that I've had for, I don't know, 5+ years, so I don't know where it came from. This is just scrapbook, it is not a pocket. Vintage book page, vintage trim. Yeah, the inside of that book page is pretty woodsy, cutesy looking. That's why I put it in there. Vintage book image. This is an index card you can write in. I just did a little collage-y stuff. That's all vintage on there, with the exception of that. Whenever those stamps came out. That's cut from a catalog. It's not an actual stamp. Scrapbook opens. This is a little punched. It's a border punch, but I just used a segment of a squirrel and leaves. It's kind of cute. And this is a piece of junk mail, believe it or not. Probably 5 or so years old. A punch out, new ribbon, part of a book page that has child's finger painting paper sewn to it. Book page, magazine, lace there, lace fabric. Coffee dyed, a little post-it note thing. Scrapbook, the other side of that, notes, paper, vintage fabric, little tiny scrapbook. It's the other side of that book page with the woodsy scene. Scrapbook with a feather and washi and scrapbook. These are punch leaves. I did add the veining with a marker. Scrapbook, fabric, vintage. Back of the twigs page, it was a identification box, which was to be able to tell what those are. This is a little kind of a construction paper weight. I don't even know where that, I think that was one of those collage sheets too, but it's not scrapbook. I fussy cut it out. That's scrapbook. This is a bookmark size journaling card I made. That's new trim and a rubber stamp and scrapbook paper. And the coloring book. Vintage fabric. It's the other side of that, and there's the deer again. The wrapping paper. Washi. Just a couple places to write. I went over the text there. Some fabrics, denim, leaves, the mini file folder, scrapbook paper. Scrapbook, little vintage text there from a magazine. And the last page here has a scrapbook box that flips up, and a pocket that's scrapbook paper with just a little collage-y index card I made. And the back again. And number 3. Now this one, talk about being late to the party. Sorry, my squeaky floor. I just finished this, and obviously it's a fall, autumn type theme. And I did intend to do the, you know, all the trims and embellishing and washi and stamping and making ephemera. And I don't know when this video is going to go up, but considering this is August 28th, I just thought, you know what, I don't have a whole lot of time to do all that. So it is a totally naked journal. This is scrapbook paper, double thick, sewn around and with Mod Podge between. I did add this. It's just stamped on a piece of scrapbook paper, and these leaves I cut from another sheet. 5-hole stitch. It's covered with fabric back. And as I said, totally naked. The threads you see are from sewing up pockets. We'll get to that. But otherwise, there's nothing. There's no washi. There's no nothing in this one. It's pocket, scrapbook paper, old book image. Another one of those leaf pages. This is actually junk mail. Easter egg dyed notebook paper. Old map. It's not really a map. Well, I guess you'd call it a map. It was out of a atlas. So they're showing different, this is density of population. This is a coloring book page. And then we're going back. Mentions October there. And this is pocket. So that's where you're seeing a few threads, or I did sew a few pockets in. Okay, this is scrapbook paper, coffee dyed. Your twig identification there with some leaves. A little shorthand page there. Scrapbook, old math textbook. This is lightweight note paper with stamped, if you will. Those are Creeping Charlie leaves. I'm not going to go into a whole tutorial, but it's like markers in water, and you stamp them. This is out of a book about decorative painting. I thought that looked kind of fallish with the colors there. And now we're going back. Those are more stamped Creeping Charlie. The math page, scrapbook, shorthand. And just for the record, I didn't give the page amounts on this. I did count this as a page. I wasn't going to. And then there's an envelope in here too, and I thought, should I count that, and blah, blah, and how am I going to explain all this in the Etsy listing? So I counted everything. So this has 92 pages, counting everything. And it is 5.5 by 6 inches. Okay. Coffee dyed scrapbook with a pocket or side tuck. This is scrapbook again with a pocket. This is out of an old kid's book about weather. They happen to mention fall. This is an envelope I made out of a magazine page. It's been painted and kind of collaged, goofed around with. Coffee dyed vintage book page. That on the other side you'll see, I think they talk about November here. Lightweight drawing paper that's quite vintage. Cookbook page talks about soups. This was a vintage book page. I thought the tree looked awfully fallish, even though the grass doesn't. And then also we're going back. Cookbook, drawing paper, yeah, November. What to do for your garden for November. Coffee dyed, the other side of the envelope. The other side of that fall weather page. A pocket on the scrapbook. And a pocket in the back. And the back again. And I can't remember if I mentioned the page amount. There's 40 pages in this one. So these are all in my shop. Better late than never. I mean, yeah, we're practically in September, folks. So anyway, thanks for watching this, and have a great day out there.